Hi everybody, it's John back here with another model inbox review. What we're looking at here is not a particularly well-known aircraft, but to most aviation enthusiasts they'll probably know what it is pretty easily. And a number of modelers who have been building models for a while will know that there are models of this particular subject available, but there aren't many. It's actually a Polish aircraft built by a company called PZL, and this aircraft is called a TS-11 Iskra. This is a Polish Air Force trainer variant that I believe is on the historic flights Polish National Air Show circuits, because it is quite an old aircraft. It was actually developed in the very sort of mid 50s as an advanced trainer. So we're basically doing a model on the Iskra. We'll go through the boxing history because the kit we're actually doing, believe it or not, is a Mistercraft kit. And yes, they have a pretty horrific reputation, but this one doesn't look to be that bad. And you'll see that when you get into the plastic. Anyway, before we go into the boxing history, I just want to show you a couple of quite interesting and what I consider to be very, very nice subjects to model if you wanted to, and they're on the airshow circuits. One of them is in America and the others are in Europe. The first one is this PZL TS-11, red 1713, registered SPYTZ, and it belongs to the Red and White Wings Foundation. And I think to model this particular kit, you would probably wish you had a decal sheet. Because to model this, I think it would be a bit of a nightmare, but it is very striking, and I really do like the overall appearance of this aircraft with its pixelated wing design and tail fin. Well, there's quite a lot of pixelated features on the airframe, and I really like it. It's a nice looking aircraft. The second is this PZL TS-11 Iskra, registered N315JB, and it belongs to the Corporate Aircraft Partners Incorporated, attached to the Kissimmee Air Museum in the United States. Kissimmee's in Florida, isn't it? And this aircraft is called Hot Section, as you can see, and it's, again, it reminds me actually of a Blue Angels aircraft in many ways. I think it's probably painted up in similar colours, so I think the yellow isn't quite the same, and I think the midnight blue, I think, is I don't think it's quite the same either, but it's very reminiscent of the Blue Angels display colours. The third aircraft is actually the model of the subject that I'll be building, but I won't be building a display aircraft. I'll probably be building just a silver trainer, which was first seen on the first slide. But this aircraft is a PZL TS-11 Iskra, registration 0730/4, red. The aircraft in the team, there are 10 in the team, 9 in the team altogether. They're all registered 0730 and they're 1 to 9. And they belong to the Red and White Stars Polish National Display Team. And I think this is it's a very vibrant colour scheme that's very striking to the eye. And I think it would have made quite an interesting model subject to model, but I definitely will not be doing a display team kit. Anyway, let's go into the boxing history. This aircraft was originally released as a Mastercraft hobby kit, as a PZL WSK Milek TS-11 Iskra 200BR. The kit was released in 1992, and these kits are actually still available nowadays. You can build a single-seater from this kit, but you have to use specific parts, and we'll get into that when I have a look at the instruction leaflet, because the instruction leaflet on this kit is not fantastic, but it is, I think you'll be able to work out what goes where and why and how. But yeah, this was a 92 release, original tooling from Mastercraft. Then it was released by ZTS Plastic, and I think this is the standard combat trainer used by the Polish Air Force in the mid-50s, and ZTS Plastic decided to go with this camo scheme, which I think it looks quite nice. You know, it's sort of brown, is that matte black or very dark grey and a medium sea grey? And it looks like a medium blue underside. It's not like a matte 65, it's more of a medium sea blue, a bit like the side colours of a US naval combat aircraft in the Pacific Theatre that were done in those three-tone blue colours. So that's the 1995 edition from ZTS Plastic. Then in 1996, Mistercraft re-released this kit, the Milik TS11 Iskra 200BR. A bit more information on the box there at the top there, like parts count, incidentally, which is incorrect. Although it might be correct for the single seat variant, but we'll go into that when we look at the parts in the box. That's 1996 release from Mistercraft. And then in 1997, Mistercraft released the same kit that ZTS Plastic released. It's basically the same markings and everything. Not a fantastic picture there, but you know, I hope it's clear enough for you to have a look at. 1997 goes to another kit released in 1997 by ZTS Plastic. This is the same model that was released earlier in 95, and then reboxed. The decals were reused again by Mistercraft in 1996. So it's the same kit as before that ZTS Plastic released earlier. In that same year, Mistercraft released a number of boxings with different decal and two-seat options. This is a PZL WSK Milik TS11 Iskra Biz D of the Indian Air Force. It's silver all over, but there is quite a lot of yellow on this aircraft, which isn't very visible from this picture. But it does show the unusual lines of the Iskra. It's a very unusual looking aircraft, isn't it? And then in 1997, ZTS Plastic released the TS11 again in the Polish silver markings. This kit's quite scarce, but you can still get it on the market. Still, I've seen a few of them on eBay and other other websites from the search engine. So that's 1997 from ZTS, and then ZTS released the original combat single-seater again in 1997 of the 200BR. The single-seat and the two-seat versions, I think you can actually mould one or the other from this kit as well that I've got, but you'll see that in the plastic in a minute. 1997 for ZTS there, and it goes to 1999 for a new company called Senal. And they have produced the Indian Air Force version as well of the Iskra Biz D in 1999. Then in 2000, Mistercraft released the single-seat combat trainer again. This is the same kit that ZTS released in 1995. It's the same, different decals this time, probably more modern decals. I think this aircraft served sort of late 60s, mid 70s, that sort of era. But that's 2000, and 2000 ZTS Plastic also released the same kit but with the original decal options. For again a two-seater there. 2002, Mistercraft re-released the Indian Air Force Biz D Iskra. Again, same kit as before. From the 2000 releases, and again you can get these kits. They're not very available, but they are they do come up on sites like eBay occasionally here and there. 2002 also saw Mistercraft release the first option of the red and white stars. I think this display team are also called the Iskry, ISKY. And again, they're a 9-ship display team. Very colourful options there, and I do like the look of this kit, but I definitely won't be building it. That's 2002 for Mistercraft. Then in 2004, Mistercraft again re-released the Iskra Biz D from the Indian Air Force. Same kit as before. I'm sorry, I've got a bit of a frog in my throat. I can't seem to get rid of it. 2004 again, Mistercraft released a rebox of the white and red Iskra. Same kit as before from 2002. Yeah, probably a nice colour scheme to build. Yeah, there we go. 2004 Mistercraft there. And then in 2004 Mistercraft produced this is actually the Sea Iskra used by the Polish Navy. 2013 is the Sea Iskra, and that was probably what I didn't mention from the previous reboxings by Mistercraft earlier, I think in 2000. Then in 2004, Senal released the TS11. It's classed here as the Rhombic. I don't know whether the team's called the Rhombic. I don't think they are. I'm pretty sure they're called the Red and White Iskra. But maybe they were called the Rhombics in the early years. I don't know. But 2004 by Senal there, they re-released the Mistercraft boxings and decal set, just exactly the same as Mistercraft's issue in 2002. Then in 2009, a new company comes on the box. This is Aeroplast, and they produce the I believe this is the Sea Iskra. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is a Sea Iskra. New markings. I quite like the look of this. I could be tempted to build this kit. Might have to source some markings, but I've got the Polish markings with the kit I've got, which would be quite interesting. But that's the PZL TS11 Sea Iskra in 2009. Then in 2010, ZTS Plastic again released. It's definitely marked R Navy. This is the Sea Iskra again. ZTS Plastic released this. An interesting thing to note about the Sea Iskra, and I think about the combat weapons trainer version for the Polish Air Force, is that it had a 27, or it might have, no, sorry, a 23mm cannon firing out the nose there, and you can see it plain as day in the forward section of the fuselage there. So that's 2010, the ZTS Plastic release of the Sea Iskra. Then in 2015, again, I think this is the Sea Iskra. Or it could, it's difficult to tell because the colouring on this particular boxing isn't easy. It could actually be the silver jet advanced trainer for the Polish Air Force. But this was 2015, the TS11 Iskra, re-released by ZTS Plastic. Then in 2017, Mistercraft came on the scene. Yes, the dreaded Mistercraft. And this was a new reboxing of the original Mistercraft kit. But this was in the Polish... It's a standard, an advanced trainer version of the Polish Air Force. But it did have a very colourful marking on the nose cone, so it was a display aircraft, probably for 2016-17 season. And Mistercraft went with this particular kit. And yeah, I quite like the look of this, but I haven't got the decals for this kit, so it won't be available to produce. 2017 also saw Mistercraft produce the Indian Air Force variant, and in doing so, ZTS Plastic re-released the weapons trainer of the TS11. Again, you can see the 23mm cannon in the nose cone there. Yeah, I quite like the look of that. But that's 2017. Then we went into 2018, and Mistercraft re-released this aircraft, and it was actually called the White Eagle Iskra. And this is limited edition, which is interesting in the way they put it. Also, don't be fooled by this term here, super decal included. They're just talking about this particular feature on the front of the nose cone as being a special type of decal for this particular option. So that's 2018. They also released the red and white Iskra display team kit, again by Mistercraft. That was released in 2018, and in 2018 Mistercraft also released the weapons trainer variant again of the 200BR. They also released the C Iskra, and it's marked C Iskra for the first time there, and you can see that 2013 was definitely the C Iskra produced for the Polish Navy. Then in 2019 they rehashed the White Eagle Iskra again, and again it's marked limited edition. I don't think it's as limited edition as they thought they would probably produce it, because it might have been as popular a kit that they re-released it again the following year. They also released this particular kit, and this is the model that I've got, the boxing that I've got, of the TS11 white and red Iskra. I'm definitely sure this team are called the red and white Iskra. And you'll see the plastic for this kit in a minute. We'll leave you with another row of kits. This is big model, and these started to be released in 2023. These are actually the same kit as the Mistercraft original moulding, but in 2023 big model produced these as junior sets. They were like Airfix's starter sets, and they produced them in 4 different options. You had 1415 blue Iskra, you had 1214 Polish trainer variant of the TS11 Iskra, you had the 200BR weapons trainer for the Polish Air Force, and then you had this rather unusual US naval version, and I think this was an Iskra that was purchased to act as an aggressor for the Top Gun program in the United States of America, and they were released in 2023 as well. And then in 2024 big model produced the kits as a standoff kit on their own, but they also released the junior sets, the starter sets, concurrently with them, and they produced the blue Iskra, the Polish weapons, Polish advanced trainer, the Polish weapons trainer, and the US naval version there as well, all in standalone kits. And also they did the concurrent in that year of the starter sets, which is quite nice. We'll leave you now with an image of a Polish advanced trainer. I quite like this image, it's really nice. This is obviously performing at an air display with the smoke. Can you see the little smoke pipe? There's a little tiny smoke pipe that's feeding, I think it's just petroleum, it's aviation fuel, or diesel it might be, that's fired out and turns to smoke in the jet efflux there. But I quite like this image. It's one of my favourite images that I've seen of Iskras of all time. It's really nice. And again, the standard trainer had the 23mm cannon in the front forward section there, which was quite interesting. But it's quite an interesting design, with the engine slung underneath the remainder of the fuselage, contoured into the nose. It's quite nice. I like that. Anyway, what we'll do is we'll show you this particular kit. Just bring that up and then turn that down so you can have a look and see. There we go. What I want to do is I want to bring the camera a little bit over. I've got a new camera stand, which, to the delight of a lot of people, it doesn't make a huge amount of noise. But what it does do is it's quite bendy, and you have to wait. Oh God, here we go. You have to wait for it to settle down a little bit. That should be a bit better. There we go. Right, first thing, confession. Here you can see the interior of the kit built, but I do want to show you the interior of the kit built because it's quite detailed. You get 2 instrument panels there, 2 seats, 2 joysticks, and 2 pilots. But I want to say something about the pilots. But before we do, I'll take the pilots out because I haven't painted any of that yet, but that will be ready for paint. And we'll just get the plastic out of here to show you what's going on here. The box itself is, I think they've had their box designers, the same guys as do the Revell box designers, because these boxes crush quite easily and they misshapen quite easily in your stash, and as you can see, there's quite a lot of crushing going on here. You've got a lot of adverts with an image of the side of the aircraft there, showing you the options that you can build. You can build any one of the display team, or you can build all 9 if you want to buy 9 kits of this thing. On the back you've got some adverts for the different kits that Mistercraft produce nowadays. You've got Caravel there, you've got an MI2 Hoplite, a Messerschmitt 109, I believe that's an F variant, probably an F2 or an F4. There's an Armstrong with Seahawk, an S-16 Fighting Falcon, and I believe that is a tribal class destroyer. But don't quote me on that because I'm not fantastic on British destroyers. Anyway, let's put the plastic down there. We'll shake it out because there's nothing to come out of there. Mistercraft do pack their plastic in polythene, which is quite nice. It keeps the parts relatively unable to move about in the box, which is nice. We'll have a look at those in a minute. First of all, I want to show you the instruction leaflet. The instruction leaflet is about A5, I would say. It's about A5. Yeah. On the front of the instruction leaflet, you've got the 4 different variants that Mistercraft produce. You've got the one I've got here, Indian Air Force, the Sea Iskra, and the standard weapons trainer. The standard advanced trainer with the eagle decal on the front there. And then you've got some information. Interestingly, the first one is in English rather, stating that the aircraft was developed from 1951 onwards and served throughout the 60s and 70s. Quite a large number of aircraft built, and they were exported to 2 or 3 other nations. There's some technical data on the bottom there which span armament, fit, speed, performance, and various other options there. Quite nice. Mistercraft. It's a nice colourful instruction leaflet, and then you get to the actual plans to how to construct this kit itself. Now, I am a big massive fan of parts plans, as you know, because they ID the parts, and it's very difficult to make a mistake and work with the wrong part when you should be working with part 25, but you can't see that it's not part 25, it's 26. But the parts plan, they clearly lay out each part that's on the sprue, and they clearly ID it by the number, and I'm a massive fan of that. I always think it's great. They've got here, and this is the first gripe I have, a box that's shaded in blue, and it's called parts not used. Now, there are no parts on the sprues that aren't used until you get to this blue part box around the transparencies. Now, I don't really know whether you're not supposed to use both of those according to the instructions, but in this kit you aren't supposed to use a single seat canopy. So I'm guessing that's what they're referring to, but it's not very clear. The instructions are interesting. The first section of the instructions that they're stating to do is to glue the pilot to the pilot seat, and then they're telling you to paint the pilot and the pilot seat. But I would paint the pilot separate, and I would put the seats, which is what I've done, into the interior, and the pilots would then be a separate entity, and then I would paint the interior completely as a sub-assembly, which is what you do in part 2. You put the interior together, and it's interesting that they show dials on the instrument panels, but those instrument panels on the kit are completely plain. They're just a blank, plain, very smooth finish. There's no dials on them whatsoever. There's no decals, as you'll see in a minute. But there was a bit of a shock here, because in section 3 you have an engine. Now, I'm not expecting to see any part of that engine except the jet pipe sticking out the back, which is why most companies don't include an engine in a kit this size. They just put the jet pipe in the back. But the Mistercraft original mould had an engine, which is quite interesting. It says you glue that together and paint it up and everything, and away you go. And then in section 4 they're telling you to put the nose wheel into, can you see that? They're telling you to put the nose wheel into the underside of the interior floor pan. Section 5, you've got the cockpit installation. In section 6, you've got the engine installation. I would just do all this all at the same time. I would put the nose wheel into the interior and then put the interior and the engine into one half of the airframe, and then I would fit the airframe around the whole assembly, which is part 7, or is that part 8? Part 8's fuselage assembly. Part 7 is canopy installation. I never fit the canopy on this kit, although I don't know, you might have to do it beforehand, because I'll have to have a look at that fuselage half. It looks like, can you see on that canopy there, it looks like there's 2 little like pins that would suggest that the canopy can be opened and closed. Very interesting. I'll have a look at the parts in a minute. Section 8 is fuselage assembly, as it says there. Section 9, wings assembly, and section 10 are the horizontal stabilizer, or the tail planes. There's a couple of extra features here and there, including the 23mm cannon assembly and the nose wheel doors, and there's some vanes that go over the top of the wings. It's quite a crude kit, I'll be honest with you. It's not a finely detailed kit. Section 7 there is the option to build a single seat variant, but I'll be doing a 2-seat silver trainer, I think. Section 8, so it's 7. Section, oh god, it's difficult to follow these plans, they're not very clear. Section 11, here we go, is the gun installation at the bottom, and section 12 are the various parts installation on the wings and other bits and bobs. And then section 13, you've got pylons, and they look like drop tanks. Interesting. And section 14, you've got the Zuni rocket assembly. They're not Zunis, they're not Zuni rockets as used by NATO. They're a rocket pack supplied by the Soviet Union. What they were like, I have no idea, but yeah, they're similar to Zunis. Then in section 15, you've got the intake installation, and this is where I get a bit confused, because part 35 is not an air intake on the sprues, and you'll see that in a minute. And also the air intake are actually made up of 2 parts, both sides. So there are 4 parts, both sides. So I have no idea what they're talking about there with the air intake installation. It's completely wrong, because part 35 is actually the wing pylons, and that is correct. But part 23 and 24, I believe, are the air intakes. And there's other main undercarriage doors there also, and the undercarriage oleos, they all go together. And then to finish up, you've got the ordnance, which fit onto the underside of the wings, and that completes the build. And on the back, you've got a paint and decal call out, and this instruction leaflet, I would probably believe that it goes into all 4 of the boxings that Mistercraft do. This is the Indian Air Force variant there with the yellow and blue wings. That is actually the weapons. No, that's the Sea Iskra. This one for the Polish Navy. And then you've got the red and white Iskras, red and white stars maybe, and then you've got the standard advanced trainer used by the Polish Air Force, and that's the one with the special decal for the white eagle display or blue eagle display or something it was called. It was something like that. And yeah, that might be an interesting kit to do if you've got the decals or the boxing for it. But anyway, that's the instructions. They're a bit vague here and there, but we'll see how it goes. So decals. This makes me laugh, because on the box here you've got super decal included. Well, I don't think there's much super about that, is there? They're quite nice, but I wouldn't call them any different to any other boxings from any other company's decals. They're no better. In some cases I would say they're not as good. But that's the decals for this particular kit. They are quite smooth, they're not very raised, the backing film is quite clear, but what they go on like, I've no idea. Right, the parts. The interior, I've already made part of this up because for some reason I started this kit before I did the inbox review, which is a bit daft really, but never mind. The interior on this kit is it's quite comprehensive, but as I said before, I don't know if you can see them, but the instrument panels have got no, trying to get this camera to focus, but there's no dials on any of those instrument panels. The seats are quite nicely moulded. They're quite good, although there is an injector pin mark in the back which will be hidden by the pilots. And also the nose wheel goes into this hole, which if it's long enough I might be able to put, or maybe meld down the top of the shaft for the nose wheel and have it rotating, because it goes right through to a well there, which is nice. Pilot figures. The pilot figures, they're not great, I'll be honest with you. They're not great at all. I'm hoping I can show you this guy, but there he is. And the first thing I noticed about these two pilots is that they've been shot in their midriff. It looks like a 23 or 27mm cannon shell. These two guys are dead, aren't they? So I'm going to have to fill those two little holes. They're both the pilots have got them. Perhaps they were shot from the back and the bullet went straight through the engine and straight through both seats in the same position. But they're both shot in exactly the same place, which is unusual. So I'll have to deal with that before I paint those two poor fellas. And also, I've got a bit of short shot on this one because he hasn't got a foot, but he's still shot in the intestines, so he's going to need some medical surgery when he gets back. It's going to be interesting to see all of this. Now then, transparencies. Yeah, they've definitely got pins. We'll have a look at the fuselage in a minute. The transparencies aren't great, I'll be honest with you. They're not fantastically clear. They're okay, but they're not fantastically clear, which is a shame. If you want to build a single seat, there are actually additional parts which you put onto this part, although it doesn't. They actually fit into the fuselage halves when you've assembled the fuselage. But as you can see, they're not fantastically clear. The quality on them isn't brilliant. You can't see any of my fingerprints. You can barely see the contours of my fingernail through that canopy, which is interesting. But it has got a front windscreen, windshield there. And if you can lift that canopy, that's actually a nice feature, originally from Mistercraft, of course. Now then, yeah, they do. Quality of the parts. Well, I'm hoping you can see the detail on that wing, because the detail on that wing is quite nice. But the whole airframe, all the parts are covered in this sort of weird texture. It's like they've covered the aircraft in fabric. And I've seen this before in a PM model, and I didn't like the effect it produced then. Interesting. But the underside of the wing has got some nice, it's a shame it can't pick it up, but it's got some nice detail on it there. It's not picking it up at all, is it? Which is a shame. Wheel wells, again, they're too shallow, but that's common for kits this scale. The nose wheel's quite nicely moulded, quite like that. And as you can see on the interior of the fuselage here, whoops, let's just stop that because I've just nudged the camera. You've got two pinholes on each side of the fuselage, so I think this canopy is going to be able to raise and lower, which is nice. They're the two sections of the fuselage that you use if you have a single seat canopy utilised. And these are the two intakes, and they are part 22 and 24. Parts 35 are on the other sprue, and they're the wing pylons. That's the front of the engine, which actually has a turbo fan on there. That's nice, very nice. And the fuselage itself is quite nicely detailed. I mean, it's relatively smooth, but there are some features on it. But it is covered in this weird texture, which is unusual. The other sprue, there's not much extra to look at. The tail planes there, again covered in this weird texture. You've got the main undercarriage doors. I think they might be the extra parts for the air intakes. That's 21 and 23. Yeah, they must go onto the air intakes on the other parts sprues as well. And that's part 35. They're definitely wing pylons. That's the other wing there. Again, you've got that feature. You can probably just see it there now. There you go. There's like features in the underside of the wing, which is quite nice. And the main oleo wheels. Yeah, they're not bad either, are they? You know, I think this kit has the possibility to be able to be produced into quite a nice kit. Anyway, what I'll do, I'll just quickly put all this back because I don't want to lose anything. Not that you'd probably have much of a problem getting parts back off Mistercraft, because they're quite an easy company to work with. And then we'll just go through the guns and closes video down so you can get on with your life, if you know what I mean. Oh God, come on. Into there we go. Right. Let's put those two on there, and we will bring the Gumpf up. Right, the kit we're doing an inbox review on today is the Mistercraft PZL TS11 Iskra. The release date was 2019, but the original tooling by Mistercraft was released in 1992. The kit serial number is C22, and it's released in 1/72 scale. Now there are decals for one option, the PZL WSK TS11 Iskra from the Polish National Aerobatic Display Team, Iskra, circa 2000. There are 54 parts on 2 grey plastic sprues and 3 parts on a transparent sprue, producing 57 parts in total. I don't think there are 3 parts, I think there's 4, so I think it's 56. Sorry, I think it's 55 parts on 2 grey plastic sprues and 2 parts on a transparency sprue, producing 57 parts in total. The dimensions, the kit is 6 inches long by 8 1/4 inches wingspan, and it should sit about 2 inches high on its undercarriage. Now the options and costs, I've included all of them because there aren't that many. The standalone kits in 1/72 scale are the Armour Hobby model, which release prices around £10 to £14, and it's quite a nice kit. Fun model also do a VAC form model. I've got no prices available on that. There's the Mistercraft option, which is around about £7 to £12, and Roosh do a kit which is really quite crude, released I believe in the 60s, and that kit, but rare now, goes usually for about 20 to 30 quid. Reboxed Mistercraft kits and the other kits. Aeroplast reboxed the Mistercraft kit for 10 to 12 quid. Big Model reboxed the Mistercraft kit for 11 to £13. Combat Model reboxed the VAC form model from Fun, and that there's no prices available on that. They're quite rare, those two actually. Mistercraft reboxed the Mistercraft kit and is available from 6 to £18. PZ Double released the Roosh kit, and that goes for about 25 quid. Senal reboxed the Mistercraft kit, and again it's about 10 to 12 quid. And ZTS Plastic reboxed the Mistercraft kit for £5 to £11. In 48 scale, there's 2 companies. They're both resin options. Armour Hobby do a resin kit. Again, I've not seen any prices for this, but the last time I saw one sell on eBay, and it was quite a while ago, it went for over £100. And the Chirosity model bud resin kit. Again, there's no prices for that, and that's like rocking horse crap to try and get hold of that. Conclusions. Well, the kit isn't the best by a long shot. I think that claim is firmly with the Armour Hobby kit, but with the kit's cost in mind, it's cheap, and apparently it doesn't suffer from the usual Mistercraft issues. The general census of opinion is that it seems to fit together like a pig with several service crews around the finishing product, stating mind the gaps. The airframe parts also have a strange texture to them, which is in the same way that I had with a PM Model SU21 fitter that I built several years ago, and it should be smooth like polished aluminium. The interior seems to be okay, but the pilots need surgery as they appear to have quite a serious bullet wound in their midriffs. Transparency isn't great either. I will try to do as good a job as I can, and I hope I have enough filler for the gaps. That's the reveal, the inbox review finished. I hope this video's been of some use. If you have any questions, queries, just put them in the comments box underneath, and I'll try and get back to you as quickly as I can. And I hope all your projects are running smooth and you're having fun modelling. That's the most important thing. Anyway, till the next video, I'll see you later. Bye bye.